Picture this: a wooden ship, no bigger than a school bus, battling waves 3 stories high. The North Atlantic. Winter. The year 1000. Ice clings to every rope. Beards freeze into solid blocks. Every breath turns to frost before your eyes. For weeks, Viking crews endured conditions that would kill you or me in a matter of hours. No cabin. No walls. No shelter whatsoever between their bodies and the merciless, killing cold. And here's the part that should be impossible. They had no way to make fire. Zero. Not a single flame aboard these ships as they crossed the most dangerous waters on Earth. This isn't myth. It's fact. And the reason why will completely change how you see the Vikings. Because what we're about to uncover isn't a story of reckless bravery. It's something far more interesting. It's a story of radical engineering, of calculated genius, of a civilization that conquered an ocean by doing something that seems utterly insane. Let's start with the evidence. When archaeologists excavated the Skulldaliv ships from Roskilde Fjord, they found something extraordinary. 5 Viking vessels, perfectly preserved for nearly 1,000 years. Warships, cargo ships, fishing boats, dating from 1000 to 1070 AD. The teams recovered everything: water barrels, tool chests, ballast stones, even traces of food. But there was something they didn't find. Not in a single one of these ships. No brazier, no hearth, no heating device of any kind. At first, they thought maybe they'd missed something, so they looked at other ships. The Oseberg ship from 834, the Gokstad ship from 890, even the brand new Jellestad excavation from 2020 using ground-penetrating radar and cutting-edge scanning technology. The result? The same. Nothing. Every major Viking ship ever discovered tells the same story. Vikings didn't heat their ships. Ever. Now here's where it gets interesting. The sagas back this up. Ancient Norwegian legal texts required ship's cooks to make 3 shore trips every single day. 1 for water, 2 for preparing meals. Not heat up the porridge on deck. Shore trips. Mandatory. The Vikings had fire. They understood fire. They used fire constantly on land. But at sea? Never. Why? The answer is terrifying once you understand it. Viking ships were essentially floating bombs. Every single surface was flammable. The hull, overlapping planks sealed with tar. The gaps stuffed with animal hair and wool. The rigging, waterproofed with pine pitch. The sail itself, thick wool treated with animal fat, basically a giant torch waiting to ignite. And unlike later ships with enclosed decks and compartments, Viking longships were completely open. No walls, no bulkheads, no way to contain a fire once it started. Studies show a fire in these conditions could consume an entire ship in under 4 minutes. 4 minutes from spark to total loss. Everyone dead or drowning in freezing water. So the Vikings made a choice, a radical one. They would cross the North Atlantic week after week in temperatures well below freezing without any source of heat whatsoever. Which raises an obvious question. How did they survive? The answer begins with clothing, but not the kind of clothing you're imagining. Archaeological finds from Greenland reveal something remarkable. Vikings developed sophisticated layered wool systems with different grades for different purposes. Wind resistance, insulation, moisture management, and critically, these materials retained warmth even when soaked with seawater, an advantage most modern fabrics can't match. But the most brilliant detail? It comes from the sagas. Every single morning, before departure, women crew members would take bone needles and waxed thread and sew the men's sleeves shut. Not tie them, not button them, sew them completely closed at the wrist. This created an airtight seal. No heat escaped. When the men needed their hands free for combat or landing, they'd cut themselves out with their knives. The next morning, the process would repeat. This wasn't some quirky tradition. It was survival engineering. Every detail mattered. But even the most advanced clothing can't keep you warm while you sleep. Not in those conditions. And this is where Viking ingenuity reached another level entirely. Forget the Hollywood image of individual warriors wrapped in fur sleeping alone like lone wolves. The reality was far more intimate, far more effective. Vikings used communal sleeping bags, two-person bags made of sheepskin with fur lining. Not for comfort, not for privacy, for survival. Two bodies in an insulated space generate compound heat. These bags could maintain internal temperatures 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the outside air, using nothing but body heat. And it gets smarter. Crews were assigned sleeping partners based on watch schedules. When one man stood watch, his body heat warmed the bag. When they switched positions, the second man entered an already warm space. The sleeping area never fully cooled down. They slept between the rowing benches, on platforms made from stored oars, staying above the coldest air at the bottom of the ship. When the sail came down, it became a massive tent over the entire vessel, trapping the warmth from dozens of bodies underneath. Even the wealthiest Vikings participated. Ship leaders got no special privileges. Survival erased social hierarchy. But all of this required fuel, enormous amounts of calories to keep bodies functioning in extreme cold. And remember, they couldn't cook. So Vikings developed an entire food system designed for cold consumption. Dried fish that stayed edible for months. Ship's biscuits, dense nut bread that wouldn't spoil in salt spray. And perhaps most ingenious, cold porridge systems. Before departure, cooks would prepare massive quantities of porridge with added butter and salt. This mixture would congeal into a dense, high-calorie paste. Crews could eat it directly or mix it with cold water. It supplied the 2,000 to 3,000 calories per day they needed just to survive. Excavations at York reveal the scale of this operation. Massive stores. Enough provisions to feed entire crews for weeks without ever lighting a fire. But here's what might surprise you most. Vikings weren't actually at sea all the time. Recent surveys have uncovered over 200 harbor sites stretching from Norway to Newfoundland. These weren't just beaches where they pulled up their boats. They were sophisticated bases with hearths, workshops, and family accommodations. Excavations at Torksey in England revealed a winter camp spanning more than 55 hectares. A small city, really, with proper heating systems and food preparation facilities. On land, Vikings had advanced cooking technology. Riveted iron pots, suspension chains for hearth cooking, stone soap vessels with superior heat retention. They knew exactly how to work with fire. They just refused to bring it aboard. Now, you might be thinking, were Vikings unique in this? No, actually they weren't. Mediterranean cultures had been cooking aboard ships for centuries. Roman vessels had bronze braziers. Byzantine ships featured dedicated galley areas with chimneys and ventilation. All of this is documented through underwater archaeology. But these were different ships, built differently, used in different waters. Mediterranean construction methods and climate priorities didn't transfer to the North Atlantic. Anglo-Saxon and Frisian sailors, operating in the same northern waters as Vikings, made identical choices. No shipboard heating, cold provisions, shore-based cooking. The pattern was consistent across all North Sea cultures. Vikings made a deliberate trade-off. By eliminating heating equipment, they saved cargo capacity and achieved superior speed. Critical advantages for both lightning raids and quick escapes when needed. But could this actually work? Could modern people survive using these methods? In 2007, a team sailed an authentic Viking ship reconstruction from Denmark to Ireland. No modern gear, no heating systems, just historical methods. They documented everything. The shared sleeping arrangements proved essential. The communal clothing maintenance, the coordinated watch rotations, All of it mattered. Crew members kept their core body temperatures in safe ranges even during rough North Sea crossings. But something else emerged from the experiment. Something the physical systems alone couldn't explain. At over 50 Viking campsites, archaeologists have found more than 300 gaming pieces, dice, board games, carved entertainment items. Initially dismissed as mere pastimes, researchers now understand these served a deeper purpose. Games weren't just entertainment, they were survival tools, psychological strategies to maintain morale during brutal conditions. Vikings understood something modern science confirms. Mental state directly affects physical endurance. Keeping spirits up wasn't luxury, it was necessity. And there's one more critical factor. Vikings weren't trying to be heroes. They were being smart. They avoided winter sailing whenever possible. They timed voyages to follow seasonal patterns. They maximized shore contact rather than enduring endless cold exposure. Their success came from planning, not from superhuman endurance. So here's what we've learned. The Vikings conquered the North Atlantic not despite their lack of shipboard heating, but because they rejected it entirely. Archaeological evidence from 8 major excavations proves they never heated their ships. This wasn't a limitation, it was a choice. A calculated decision that prioritized safety over comfort, vessel integrity over warmth, crew survival over individual ease. Their success came from sophisticated alternatives, advanced wool technology that worked when wet, ingenious social warming systems, strategic planning with extensive shore infrastructure, comprehensive provisioning for cold consumption. Vikings weren't reckless warriors enduring constant misery. They were strategic engineers who developed sustainable solutions for one of Earth's harshest environments. They reached North America 5 centuries before Columbus. They established trade routes from Greenland to Constantinople. They shaped medieval Europe through maritime dominance. And they did it all in open boats, deliberately choosing to sail without fire. Think about that next time winter wind cuts through your jacket. Next time you instinctively reach for your heater. Vikings made the conscious choice to reject that comfort. They chose capability over warmth, safety over ease, collective survival over personal comfort. They didn't just endure the cold. They transformed their entire civilization around it, restructured their social systems for it, reimagined what was possible within its constraints. In the end, Vikings didn't need to heat their ships because they discovered something far more powerful. How to heat themselves, through cooperation, through planning, through sheer strategic brilliance. And in that transformation, from comfort-dependent land dwellers to cold-adapted ocean warriors, they became unstoppable.